So I'm Corey King. I am a mold inspector in Florida. I have been working with HomeGauge for quite a while now. I use their software in my inspections. I have taken their software and adapted it to what I needed so I can do my inspections. And I really enjoy it. It's very adaptable, and it makes my job a lot easier. So I can follow through the steps I need to do to do my inspections. I've worked so much with them that they built my website. Did an amazing job. Sarah was the one who guided me through it and hooked me up with a web builder. And I think I gave her, like, I don't know, 3 pieces of information. They knocked it out of the park for me. So thank you very much. It's very happy with it. Let me see, close that. So I actually became a home inspector first and fell into becoming a mold inspector or assessor, as we call it down here in the state of Florida. It just was a better fit for me. I just worked better for me as far as what I enjoyed doing. One of the things that we do might be a little different, I don't know. We just focus just on indoor air quality. Mold is it's just a fungus. It needs a couple things to grow. One of them being moisture, and inside of a home, there's plenty of organic materials for it to eat. So it needs to get those kind of conditions going, and it may be that it might be water damage, or it could just be high humidity. There's a couple different reasons why it can start. The big thing is that what we're looking at when we do mold assessments is that we're comparing indoor air with outside air and what those relationships are as far as what we sample and how we test. So I went over that. Why it grows, we need organic material, certain amount of airflow.
Hey, Corey, we're still stuck on have you been going through your slides? It's not in, if you want to maybe try to do present, because we're still stuck on that first slide.
Okay, hold on. Present.
Or slide, maybe. There's slideshow.
Okay. We don't know. No, I don't see that.
Didn't see it.
No.
Screen sharing is paused. It says it's paused.
Yeah, it says it's paused.
Are you? I wonder if you're sharing the right screen, because we can see your browser.
Oh, okay.
If you want to try to reshare the screen and share your desktop, it'll show you. Yeah, that might be easier.
Okay. Now, is that working?
Yep, exactly. Now play from the beginning. Perfect. Looks awesome.
Okay. All right.
Great, thank you.
So we went through that. I did that with you guys. Why I'm a mold assessor, the types of fungus. So, and these background pictures, these are actually a job I did. The gentleman's AC broke, and it looked like something out of a horror movie when I walked in. So as the picture in the background shows, high relative humidity is always a big concern in a home. As you guys know, with AC, it's there to condition the air. It's not just there to take out the temperature, it's also there to take care of the humidity. And that can always be, that can be a big, factor in what's going on if it's not necessarily, you're inspecting a home and you're finding damage. Looking at the relative humidity, checking AC ducts and looking in there. Sometimes there's some signs in there. I have down here the ASTM D7338. It's a great piece of information. If you're just getting going and you're interested in doing mold inspections, I would say first and foremost, education. There's so much information to take in this business, and that's a great piece of starting information as far as how to inspect, and kind of give yourself a couple of roles to go down, looking, okay, is there damage, or is there humidity? Is there, as you're inspecting this home and you're going through it, you can look for different things that might cue you into possibly there could be an issue. Big things to check your state regulations and how they set it up. In the state of Florida, we do have to have some experience in remediation business before we get into getting our license so that we can start doing mold assessments. There is a lot of other organizations you guys can get in touch with and get involved with. The IICRC is one. They are kind of the governing organization of how remediation is done, and they have a book called the S520. Matter of fact, I have it right here. It's the S520. That is a book that we use as far as if you're going to get into where you're going to do assessments and you're going to start writing a protocol in the sense of how to clean the problem that's going on, and how to clean it in a manner that that organization says is deemed the proper way to do it. I put this up here because one of the big things that I get to see when I get other inspectors, sometimes reports from, or I get homeowners who call me and they're flipping out because somebody accidentally made the mistake of yelling fire in a building before there was actual fire. So, I put up there microbial growth, organic material. It's good ways to discuss it before you have results. I always am one, as long as I've been in this business, I can tell you that I've been in homes and tested and gotten numbers that were not what I imagined, whether they be really high or they be really low. So I never, even though I am a mold inspector, I never spill the beans until I got all the information. Couple ways to test I put up there: the swab, the air samples, tape lifts are all the usuals. When you're doing air samples, you're doing a non-viable test. You're going to need, again, ASTM. There's a couple other organizations talking that give you the rules on how to test, and you want to stay within those rules. And the big thing is and this is what my mentor told me, everything you get, even down to when you buy your aerosols, read every piece of information. This can be a very litigious part of inspecting because we are dealing with people's health, and they get really concerned about their health, and you should be too. There are different cassettes, and they have different time frames on them, and all that information's there so that you can do your job properly and be within the realms of doing things in a safe manner. Different types of molds. When you guys start doing this, there is, when you get lattice back, they'll specify what they are. There's their common allergens, there's water damage indicators. When I'm doing my inspections and I get my first set of samples back, generally I do 2 inspections. I do one before, and that's when the damage happens, and then I do one after a post test. A lot of what I do is work with remediation companies. I do a lot more with them than I do real estate. And that's another form of, or another additional place you guys can grab business as you guys move along, if you choose to dive deep into this side of inspecting. So again, your labs will tell you about those. You'll learn more about those. There's some really good books to I have a whole library of books I keep and I read constantly. There's more information than you would believe in this business. It keeps me interested. You know, like I said, I have a library, and I'm probably going through books as much as I can, sometimes going back just to get and grab more information so that I'm more educated and have more knowledge that I can be a better inspector. But there you go. It's a cat and mouse game. It's never the same. The funny thing about that ASTM D7338, the standards of inspecting, it's kind of funny. I'd say the standards of inspecting is there is no standards. You got to have a basis of an idea what you have to do, and then when you get in, it certainly changes. It's all based on what the mold has, where it's grown, and figuring out why it did or how it did. It's a cat and mouse game, and it keeps me always interested. I've never had a day where I woke up and said, I don't want to do this today. It's just a interesting business. And I think that's it. That's all I got for you on my side. That's all my slides. So any questions? Or one big thing I can always tell you too is, you know, this is a business where you are going to constantly learn. One of the things you guys can always do, you know, you depending on where you are inspecting. I know as I was a home inspector at one point, you know, you hire guys to do your sewer scopes. You may hire guys to do your termite. You might hire guys to do this, but certainly I'm sure in your area there are some indoor environmental people, and you could always leverage them into either learning from them or hiring them to help you with an inspection, you know. So there's a lot of different opportunities here.
While we wait to see if there are any questions, Corey, and I remember you told me a couple crazy stories. Any crazy stories you can think that you'd like to share?
Oh, I mean, where do you want me to start?
The craziest.
I think I told you about it. So I do a lot of indoor environmental inspecting. So I don't do just mold. I do category 3 water, moisture mapping, all kinds of crazy stuff. So I think I was telling you about, I had a client who was selling a $2.5 million home. When his realtor had car trouble, was bringing her clients to the house, all cash offer. And as he walked in, opened the door, he had 3 inches deep to the front door, Cat 3 water, which is basically sewer water. And it's everything you think it is. And he could actually hear the toilet in the back of the house. You could hear the cover of the toilet slapping as the water was spewing out of the toilet. So I got to do that inspection. And so the company comes in, they extract all that stuff. And then I go through and with thermal cameras and moisture meters and swabs and document everything, because category 3 water is a water that not just of the things you think about, we all think about in sewer. It's more about the microorganisms. Same with mold. That's the same thing. It's that micro. We think of things on a micron level, and that was a fun one. The pictures I put into my slides was a guy who his AC had broken, and our summers are pretty darn hot and pretty humid. And that broke in the beginning of last summer. I was called, it had sat for 4 months with no air conditioning in it. I walked in and I had a full face mask on, you know, respirator, covered my whole face. And I went in to do the inspection, and when you looked at those pictures, he was in there with a paper mask on and a sponge trying to clean this place up. And there wasn't a wall that didn't have you know, mold on it. Everything was covered. All the materials, all the content was covered. And he was in there with water, which is kind of like throwing gasoline on a fire, with water and a big sponge just wetting everything down. and he was very angry that I was there. But I finally talked him into kind of getting out of the house, and he couldn't understand why. And I had to explain to him that if I'm in a full face mask and I do this for a living,
Yeah.
the reason I'm asking you to leave is because it's not safe. And so, you know, it's a neat business. Every house is different. Every situation is different. Plenty of interesting stories will come out of it. My wife, I send my wife pictures sometimes of some really bizarre stuff I see. And even down to the extent where I've gotten to where my wife tells me I'm extra nerdy because I take pictures of different molds and how they grow. The big one is the black mold thing. There's no such thing as actually black mold. Mold sometimes gets its color from whatever subsurface it's eating, using it as food source. So when you hear that word black mold, that's a media made name. Generally, they're talking about a mold called Stachybotrys, and that is a what we call a water mold, a water damage indicator, and it's a muddy one. It's you've hit, Eureka, you've hit gold. You've found you're pretty close to the origin of whatever happened with that one. And so, but yeah, I mean, it's a fun business. It's I can't imagine doing anything else. I'm actually at a point the business is growing, and I had to bring other inspectors in. And one of my mentors has said, when you do that, he says, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to have to step out of the field. And I'm kind of torn. It's such a fun, interesting thing to do, and you really get to serve people. This is a side of the inspection world where I get to see people's lives change. I just this morning was doing some stuff. I had 3 phone calls. One of them was a client who she had to move out of her house. She moved out of her house because she can't live in there because she gets that ill from whatever's going on in there. So Monday morning, we're going to go over there and we're going to do an inspection for her and take some samples and kind of help her get some answers to some questions that she has. Another great, as I'm talking, another great organization that is open to home inspectors is an organization called ECAN. And it is probably, if you're going to step into this business, it will probably be the best resource that you could get for yourself. Very knowledgeable, very helpful people over there, and they are there to help you become the best that you can be.
And that's ECAN?
Yeah, ECAN.
Okay.
Yeah.
ECAN. Okay. And then I do have a couple questions. So
Sure.
Ricardo's got a good one. He says, okay, category 3 water. What's category 1 and category 2?
So there's category 1 would just be regular water, potable water, and then category 2 is water, or we call gray water. It depends on what it's touched. As you go through the IICRC, they break down the different levels of water. So category 3 water is full of microorganisms, really bad stuff. Seawater, any water that's touched the outside. Gray water can be, which is category 2. Touch building materials, still not anything you would drink or want to put in a glass of water. I mean, in a cup. So I hope that answers your question.
All right, and a couple others. Is there a particular device you prefer for air sample?
They all do the same. It's a preference. There's a company, Zephon, that makes their pump, and they're good pumps. For whatever reason, I went to a company called AP Buck, and I like their pumps. It's real simple. It's, there's a couple buttons to hit, and there you go. One of the things I like about it is that so when I do my inspections, I lay everything out. I calibrate my machine before every job. I document that. I don't care if I do 4 jobs in that day. I recalibrate that machine every single time. They have a calibration button. boom, you hit that, you get your calibration, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. And then, you know, depending on what the time frame is, depending on where I'm inspecting, like what I'm gonna grab air from, there's 1 minute, 5 minute, and 10 minute, and there might be another button. I can't think of it right now. So that's my favorite. And they're close for me. They're in Orlando. So every year you should have your machine sent to be recalibrated. So for me, it's like it's there the next day. I get it back within a week. I keep, even though I'm one guy, I keep 4 pumps. And the reason I do that is that I can't be down. I can't be down for a week. So I rotate my machines, and I always have 2 with me, just because you never know what's going to happen. But always 2 with me, and always have them recalibrated every year. So.
Great, thanks. And then Ricardo's also curious, how do I find a mold specialist?
That's a good question. You might want to, depending on where you're at, I'm sure wherever you're at, there are some of the larger franchises that do fire, water, mold, or whatever kind of catastrophes that can happen in your area. And without a doubt, they would use indoor environmental professionals to do all kinds of, you know, whether it be like I do, moisture mapping or mold assessments or documenting category 3 stuff. They have somebody they go to. Most of the time they want a third party in there to let them know exactly what's going on, so they can know how to best clean the place.
This was awesome, Corey. Any final questions? Oh, David Miller is curious, is any book that you recommend?
Oh my gosh.
You
There's
have
a
a
ton
lot, don't you?
Yeah, there is. So as far as to do mold, you're going to want the ASTM D7338. You can look this up online. I think I got mine for free off there. You're going to want the ANSI, A-N-S. Here, I'll show you. ANSI. This is called the 520. Can that be seen? You got that?
Yeah, back up a little bit. So hold on, 8, or maybe go higher and a little closer to the camera.
Okay.
There you go. That's perfect.
Okay, that's a great book.
ANSI S520.
Yep, that's an amazing book. This is another book that I've been reading right now. They're all on my desk because I use them all the time. Bioaerosols. That's a phenomenal book to have. And this book is part of what the industrial hygienists use. There's so much information. I'm looking around at a couple other books I can grab.
And what's the you said it's ASTM?
ASTM D7338.
7338. Okay.
There's another book, The Collection and Interpretation of Indoor Mold Samples. This is a great book. Can you see that one? Joe C. Spurgeon, Dr. Joe C. Spurgeon, highly respected in this field. That's just tip of the iceberg. There's books and books and books and books, and there's so much information. You never stop learning. There's the IICRC. They also have a very thick book that you could purchase, and it goes from water damage to microbial inspecting and cleaning, and gets into building structures, and it might be more than you want, but I don't think anybody's ever said I'm overeducated. So if you're diving into this, you know, education is the big thing. And like I said, there's some really simple rules. And if you stay within those simple rules, I think you can keep yourself out of a lot of trouble. Because again, like I said, you know, you're dealing with people's health, and if things don't go right, they might get upset with you, and we don't want that.
And then David's curious, can he get in touch with you? Can I give him your contact info?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. I'll send that to you, David.
I'll give you all the information I can. I don't know if it'll all be right, but I'll give you the information I can.
And then I'm gonna find all these books and I'll put the links in the chat for everybody too.
Yeah.
One other, do you deal in UV lights to improve air quality?
I don't. So I have a couple mentors, and one of them is a microbiologist. And so, that's kind of one of those, I guess almost like politics and religion. It's discussed, but it all depends on where you stand on it. So my opinion of UV lights is this. The essential reason why they put UV lights in AC is it's the idea that it will kill the mold, because when mold's everywhere outside and UV kills it, it ebbs and flows. But as he explained to me, and I respect it because he's a microbiologist, he's got to know more than I do. The air's moving too fast and it's still a wet, dark environment, that there's not enough UV to take care of a problem if you're beginning to have a problem. I'm a big fan of, I always tell my clients, especially down here in South Florida where we get so much humidity, and we're starting to get into that season where it gets really humid. If you have an AC system that's running properly and that system is keeping the relative humidity down in safe levels, there really shouldn't be a need for a UV light to begin with. That's just the opinion he's given me, and I kind of respect it. I will say this. I do anywhere from 10 to 18 of these a week, and I can't tell you how many I've been in where they got mold in the air for whatever reason, and guess what? UV light didn't save them.
Very interesting. Well, Corey, thank you so much. I'm trying to share all these books. Gonna get David your info, but this was really helpful.
Well, thank you.
We really appreciate this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm flattered, and I thank you. And I hope I helped a little bit. And, I leave with just make sure you're educated and don't get I want you guys to be educated so that you don't get yourself in any trouble, and become an asset to your real estate professionals that you're working with, and maybe even blossom into, other avenues to do business and become an asset to those people also.